What's up? What's going on? Welcome to the G-Hole Podcast. I am Ray DeVito, and this is the introduction. Greatest hour of listening ever. Bob Biggerstaff is my co-host. And today we have a good buddy of mine, good friend of mine, comedian I've known ever since I moved to New York City. Harry Terjanian, very funny guy. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram. He also co-hosts the Man School podcast with Dante Nero, which they changed the name. They used to have a podcast called Beige Phillips, which Dante used to do a podcast with the late great Patrice O'Neill. They had a podcast, Black Phillip. Basically, it was like Dr. Phil, but he was the Black Dr. Phil, and it was huge, man. Patrice, one of the greatest, man, one of the greatest comics to ever exist. And then Harry started doing it with Dante. They changed it to Beige Phillip, and I don't know why they changed it to Man School, but whatever. It's a very popular podcast. I always enjoy listening to it. It's always good times. And we sat down. We got to reveal a guilty pleasure. We get into it. Harry talks about how he likes to eavesdrop on a bunch of gossip. So we get into that. Also, big thing in the comedy world right now is Dave Chappelle's special. It just came out on Netflix, and it's weird, man. It's like there's two sides. I'm right in the middle. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was brilliant. I didn't think it was horrible. But apparently, you can only have one opinion. You either think it's amazing or you think it's atrocious. Yeah, and sadly, that's not the way. The same thing with all the politics in this day and age. You either got to be extreme right or extreme left, and it's like, yeah, we all live somewhere in the middle. And so we get into it. We discuss a special. If you guys seen Chappelle's special, I thought it's... First of all, dude, he could talk about whatever he wants. He's earned the right. He's Dave Chappelle. He's one of the greatest comedians ever. But, yeah, I think he could have flushed out more, could have gotten into it more. The topic matters that he tackled, he just kind of like glossed over them and made some cheap jokes. That's my thing. But overall, he's still funny. He's still Dave Chappelle. He's great. So... anyways, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at the G-Hole Pod. And my album is out there. Well, that crowd liked me. And doing pretty good, man. I'm selling them after shows. And I don't know what it is. Maybe because I'm excited about it. But, yeah, people have been buying them after shows and stuff. So, yeah, you can get it on iTunes. I'm on Spotify, whatever. Ray DeVito, well, that crowd liked me. And you know what else I like? I like you guys. Enjoy the podcast. What's up? Welcome to the G-Hole Podcast.
Step up to the G-Hole.
Yeah, there we go, Bob. How are you, man?
Excuse me, I'm good, Ray.
You look good.
Been out of town for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Get out that phone. I like it. The phone's in your pocket.
Checking your time.
And then the podcast starts. He breaks out the phone.
I was checking the time.
All right. All good.
I have a watch on, but I forgot.
That's all good, man. He checks his steps. Harry Terjanian, our guest. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here, buddy. Thank you for having me. Thank you and Bob for having me.
Came all the way from Jersey City, you said.
That's right.
Where's that, Pennsylvania?
I mean, it might as well be. It's almost the same distance from here, actually.
Jersey City, it's not so bad on the trains.
Yeah, it's better than people think. It's about a half an hour. They have that PATH train that runs every half hour.
Yeah.
At its worst, which is actually better than going from like Manhattan to like a deeper part of Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, I used to have a temp job when I first moved here in Jersey City, and it wasn't bad. It was literally like 45-minute train, especially in the morning, like in the rush hours. They come like every 5. It's like transferring to a train, like the N train to the F train or something.
You just transfer to the PATH.
Is that anywhere by the football stadium?
No,
that's a pain in the ass. Even when there's football games, that thing's
well,
a pain
they
in the
haven't
ass.
figured it out with the MetLife Stadium thing. They just built the stadium out in the middle of nowhere, which is like Secaucus, swamp. Yeah,
Secaucus, that's where it is.
I guess technically it's East Rutherford, but that area is the same thing, right? And they just built it out in the middle of a swamp. There wasn't anything there, which is where you need to put a football stadium.
Right.
But they never bothered, and even the new one they built, like... it's like you're on your own, suckers. Like once you get there, the public, there are trains that go there, but every single time anyone has ever gone to any event I all I hear is horror stories about the trains. Like,
Yeah, and it's also kind of cutthroat because the trains only fit so many people.
Yeah.
And it's 75,000 people trying to get on one train.
and they don't add any special trains for events.
Well, I went
too.
to a game last year, and I was at Penn. Was it maybe Penn Station where I took the train and then it stopped someplace in New Jersey, got on another one? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it stops at I want to say Secaucus.
Okay, but at Penn Station, whatever train it was that you were supposed to take, they were only running like during the week. They run like maybe every half hour or something.
Yeah.
And then there's a football game where obviously people are going to take these. It only runs every hour.
No, they keep it on like a weekend schedule. They don't
So
give
it
a
was
shit.
like,
Yeah,
but,
they
but it
don't
didn't
care.
say that like on the screens.
Oh yeah, they don't care. Like
No,
they,
they don't
just
care.
genuinely
So I
do
thought-
not.
So my girlfriend and I, we literally like we're walking down the stairs. The train is leaving.
Yeah.
So now we're like, okay,
We'll
we
get
only
the
have to wait.
next
We
one.
only have to wait a half hour.
And then you
And I
have
asked
to.
somebody in there, somebody that works there, and they're like, no, it's an hour. And I'm like, well, it says right there that it on this video screen that it comes every half hour. And they're
right.
like, yeah, well, it doesn't. It comes every hour because
Yeah.
it's the weekend.
They don't care.
So
New
we
York
ended
City
up,
does
my
not
gir-
care.
I was being a bitch, so my girlfriend, we took an Uber from Penn Station to,
All
the,
right.
to the football game.
Fair enough.
Well, it's also like it is cutthroat because you're just with like a bunch of Giants fans. Let's say the Giants win, you're in a good mood with all the other Giants fans, and then it's like, okay, there's only 400 seats and there's 10,000 of you. You have to be a dick. Like you have to like be a dick to like. Otherwise, like I'd rather just be a dick than wait another hour and a half to get out of here. It really
Yeah,
makes you
it's-
It
be a
wasn't
douche.
that bad. The game. I don't remember it being.
The games are not
being that
terrible.
bad
The games
on the
are
train
not.
and
What
whatever.
game? What game?
We
did you
took
go
because we
see?
took the train back. It was
Giants game.
It was Giants.
All right.
Tampa
So here's
Bay.
the thing about the Giants game. The Giants game is done. It's a 1:00 game.
Yeah.
It's done at 4. So that's fine. The problem is when you go see the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney or you go to WrestleMania over there.
Oh, at night.
If it finishes off at midnight, and I think they run even less trains,
Right, right.
and stuff. And also, there's no alternative. You can either drive there or
Yeah.
take the train. It's not like you could be like, screw this. I'm just going to walk across the New Jersey Turnpike.
Right,
There's
right.
no place you can go. You're stuck. But they don't care. Anyway, this podcast has become about
Yeah, some
transportation
traffic.
issues.
That's all right.
and
We talk about everything.
About transportation issues, which are huge for.
Yeah, you got to
commuters.
reveal a guilty pleasure, and your guilty pleasure is how much you love fucking traffic.
Oh
So
my God,
it is
the
perfect.
best. It drives me nuts. Traffic will drive me nuts. I do like.
I don't really know anybody that likes traffic.
No, some people can tolerate it. Like it eats at me. Some people, I've known people who are like, all right, this is what it is. Let's just turn on a podcast or whatever, and I'll
Right.
deal with it. Whereas for me, now I have to start scamming and thinking in my head, how do I?
Are
Yeah,
you in
yeah.
traffic a lot?
Yeah, decent amount. I live in Jersey City.
Yeah.
I drive in to
'Cause
do
I would think a
sets
lot of.
and-
I would think people that are in it a lot kind of get used to it. Like
Now, you got to get
being a
cutthroat.
comic-
You got to get cutthroat.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I
you're.
mean, New York. I mean, I don't have a car, so. But like living in Houston,
Hmm.
people say the traffic's bad in Houston. Obviously, it's not like New York or L.A.
Right.
But I never really dealt with the traffic in Houston because I mean I haven't had a. Even when I had a day job, I didn't live someplace where I had to like go on the freeway to get to my job.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
well,
was
you don't got to
close
be
by.
somewhere at 5 p.m. or somewhere at 9 a.m.
Well, no, but when it
No, it was just
even when I
close
had a day,
enough.
even when I
Yeah.
had a day job, I was if I was going like
was in your town,
when I lived
basically.
downtown, I would work downtown, or if I had to go out to the suburbs, well, in the morning traffic is going the other way; it's coming to downtown. So the little traffic, but going out to the suburbs obviously is less traffic.
Yeah, you know what though? Nothing feels better when you're driving.
So I never really
in the
have
direction
dealt with traffic.
where there is no traffic.
Oh, my
And
God.
everyone else is just like stuck in
Oh,
traffic.
you feel brilliant.
And you're just looking at them like, man.
Oh, you should see when
And then
there's
you
a-
see the people that are just now entering that traffic after you just
Oh, that's
passed.
sad, too. Yeah,
like
you're like,
7
no.
miles of traffic. Like, dude, you don't even know what you're about to drive into, dude.
Well,
when there's a hurricane or a hurricane warning like in Houston, and then people are leaving town, and then you're not, and you're like
you're just
oh.
floating through.
Because
Yeah.
most of the time the hurricane doesn't happen. It has recently, but a lot of times people like
it is that shot from
people
Independence
leave.
Day.
I left town twice for big storms that never came.
What are you going to do, man? Well, you're here now. We all made it.
I will go. One time I was like, I go nuts when I see people like, you see like 3 lanes and then there's an exit and people are going into this traffic where it's clearly traffic. And
Right.
in my head, I go, what are you doing? Why would you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take any other route? For me, if I see an exit, I'm like, I got to take the exit and regroup. Right. So that's the thing. I won't stay on the thing. And I usually figure something out. So that part I appreciate. But mentally, I'm just like, why do you? But you also realize people are sheep and they just go.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many times where I'm like, there's nobody on this other route because nobody, well, the map told me.
You know, if you're in like an Uber, and say, you're going somewhere and the guy's like, okay, I got to get off the freeway, and you don't get charged extra if the guy has to like drive. I mean, you do get charged for the time, but like in a taxi's
you
per
can
minute.
See
the fucking meter.
Yeah.
They charge you by the minute in an Uber, but it's it's like a penny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I haven't taken many Ubers.
I know, but my point is, if you take an Uber and the guy, you're not going to get fucked if the guy's like, I have to go this long way to drop you off.
Whatever.
You might pay an extra 10
All right,
cents.
as comedians, let's talk about something.
Don't you ever short whatever me like that again. I woke up at 11:30 to show up for this thing. Okay?
Tell me about your traffic. I'm sorry, Bob. Back to the traffic.
Okay,
I want to get stuck in this traffic conversation. It's only fitting that we get stuck in this. I love traffic as much as you guys.
Sorry.
My fault, Bob.
You're good.
I did not... with something very relevant in the comedy community, apparently, I'm getting it from both sides because I could care. I thought it was okay. Talking about Chappelle's special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you saw it?
I did see it.
Bob saw some of it.
I saw the first 10 minutes last night.
Okay.
I only turned it off because it was late.
I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. Trust me, he can do way better.
I thought it was a good special. I liked that he was doing weird, uncomfortable things.
Right. It was him talking about his life, and that's his perspective. Is a million and also him and Bill Burr kind of put themselves in the same predicament where they have to do a special every year because they signed a contract with Netflix, so he has to do a special. So it's not going to be the most brilliant special because he's going to put out an hour every year because he said he was going to. He signed a contract for it, and people are it's going to make money. People paid $800 a ticket to go to it. Like,
is that true?
Yeah,
$800 a ticket.
Yeah, it was. No, he jokes about it in the special, as well. I thought it was okayish. I did think there was some laziness. Like his whole thing about transgenders playing sports, and he just said, well, it's kind of weird. And his easy joke was, that's if LeBron was in the WNBA, he'd score 8,000 points a game. And that was it. Meanwhile,
LeBron's transgender?
Yeah.
What?
No, he said the fact that transgender, everything's equal. Okay, well, what if LeBron decides he's a woman and plays in the WNBA? Is that fair? He's going to score 2,000 points a game or whatever. But there's a real transgender. Do you guys know the Fallon Fox? There was this woman that was born a man, transitioned into
MMA
a woman.
Fighter?
Yeah, became a professional MMA fighter, and she just goes around beating the shit out of her female opponents.
She broke a girl's skull.
Yeah.
In a fight.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
So you know you got to draw a line somewhere. That's not fair.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
It's like
here's the thing. I'm pretty sure when she first started fighting, she didn't tell. Some of her opponents didn't know that she was.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, nobody knew. The people that fought her. The one girl that she fought that actually she did lose a fight to a woman. And the girl that did win was like,
yeah. I mean, she's not the most talented fighter.
Yeah. And she was like, it was like getting punched by a dude. So
there's a.
So where do you draw the line?
There's a South African track runner. I don't know if she was in the Olympics, but I mean, she looks like a guy, whatever. But she runs. I forget what race she runs. It's not like the 100-yard dash. It's something. It's at least the 400-meter dash. It might even be more long distance. But I know at one point there was a problem with her being in like track and field events because they were like, you have to be the gender that you were assigned at birth.
Right.
And then I think they've changed the rules. And I think she's been in the Olympics. I don't know if she's won any medals. The South African. So
she's still allowed to run as a woman?
Well, my point is, if you're from South Africa, you can have no legs and run in the Olympics, or you can have a dick and run against women.
Oh, all right. I don't know what exactly.
South Africa has but she
She
doesn't have a dick. She's actually a woman.
Yeah.
So she does get to, but I mean that's the Olympics. That's not South Africa. Like what they do in their countries.
No,
one
I know,
thing.
but it was just.
But like, where do you draw?
Those two people are.
But where do you draw the line on the trans? Because obviously it's not fair for someone that was born a man to be an MMA fighter and be like it's pretty brutal to watch.
Yeah, I don't know where you draw the line. You're supposed to, but luckily I don't have to make that decision.
Yeah, well,
because I have no clue where you would draw the line. But I definitely agree. There should be some type of.
Joe Rogan talked about it on one.
Specifics, yeah.
I listened to that.
Does he have jokes about it
on his podcast?
No, he talks about it usually.
I'm sure he makes jokes during the podcast, but when we talk about it on the podcast, he's probably talking about it more than
talk
one.
it pretty scientifically.
Yeah,
The clips I've seen.
It's like if you're born a man, you're already you're stronger than a woman.
There's bone structure.
Right. Exactly.
The things that can't
your
go
bones
away.
Are bigger. Yeah. No matter how many female hormones she takes,
Yeah.
if she has like man-sized hands, her
Right.
hands aren't going to get any smaller. Your bones, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's what I'm saying. So there has yes, we all
Joe Rogan
want,
makes some salient points every once in a while,
yeah.
especially about fighting and stuff.
Now I have to Google the word salient. That sounds like a
Salient.
good word. Do you know that word?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Isn't that what people put in their eyes?
No, that's salient.
Salient solution.
That's salient solution.
I thought
wish
that's-
there was a salient.
You know what?
It just means like valid.
You know what? I thought that you were being pretty deep in saying like, oh, now I could see it clearly. So a salient point, because like the salient of
is
the
that the way
eyes.
that word works?
It's not based. That and salient have nothing to do with it, but
Right.
that's not a bad.
It's not a bad use of the word, but that's not what Ray was going with either.
Yeah. I thought you were. I thought you were getting deep on me, Bob.
It just means like a valid point.
Yeah.
That's
A very good point, but yeah, I always looked at it. Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what would be the take on that? Like, and then also, like, Bill Burr, same thing. Like, I saw Bill Burr. Bill Burr's, I think he's.
Did he just release it yet? Did it come out?
No, the one that he just did, and I still.
He's got one.
He's
coming
got one
out.
coming out in a month, within the month. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about his last one. I thought I liked it, but it seems a little rushed considering he just had one a year. Like, there's some points where it could have been, and by the way, that's just me nitpicking.
Well, yeah, obviously,
he's like obviously one of the best to ever do it.
No one can hone. If the longer you have.
Right.
I remember when you remember. No, not Richard Jenny. Who was a guy that died from cancer? Robert Schimmel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So years ago, Robert Schimmel, he released his first album. I remember I had just started comedy, and he goes, and he was on the radio. He was playing the club in Houston, and he goes, "Yeah, I got a record out." This is when all comedians had actual records on real
Right.
on real companies, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a record out with Warner Brothers." He goes, and after it came out, it sold a lot of copies, and my management was like, "All right, we want another one of these in 6 months." And he goes, it took me 20 years to make that one.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, you know what? I mean, I don't know if we talked about this here, but I'm sure guys have done it before, but Louis C.K. kind of changed the game in that now everybody thinks they have to have a new hour every year. And that's kind of the...
Yeah. It's going to be rough.
Because
no
when he
who you
even
are.
did it might have been 60 Minutes or something where he said, I'm working on this. I dump all my material. So now and what has happened and what's going to happen is people are going to put out, 2 specials back to back, and you'll be like, oh, that was like...
You mean like Amy
I'm not necessarily
Schumer?
the biggest Aziz Ansari fan, but I think he's done some funny stuff. But when he released that, he had a show that was at Rockefeller Center, I think, or Madison Square Garden. That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it was a year after his... And I was watching, and I was like, oh, man, this is way, way too rushed. Like, it wasn't...
Yeah, that happens.
And
I mean,
obviously, of course it's going to happen.
That happens because people are it depends on the individual too. But it didn't used to be that way back in the day. But also that was more akin to...
People weren't releasing hour specials every year.
Yeah, there just also wasn't the venues to do that. If you were getting a special, it was an HBO special, and you were lucky to get that contract.
Because specials were special.
Were special,
Yeah.
yeah. And now, well, here's the thing. Even without those contract years, I don't think that under the contract, Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr have to put them out every year. I think that's their. I think there's a time frame of
Yeah,
it.
they're big enough. They don't
have to put them out every year.
I'm not
They're-
ready. Let's
yeah.
hold off on this.
They kind of choose to, because even before Netflix,
Yeah, they're
remember
not
Bill
gonna put
Burr
deadlines
was
on those
putting
things.
out. He was one of those guys who was putting one out every year, and it wasn't always at the same place. So it would be HBO. Louis C.K. did the same thing. One was HBO.
I'm just saying that every year they seem to have one. And remember,
They do, but
remember we were starting out doing comedy. It was a big deal when Jerry Seinfeld retired his entire act. And he's like, I'm starting all over. Remember, it was like a big thing, and people were like, ooh, you're starting all over?
Yeah,
Like,
until he did that thing on Netflix, and it was just him doing all that old stuff again, because that's what the special was
But
about.
do you remember that, though? There was a time when
that
he
was
was
his
like,
I'm
special,
telling you
but-
for the last time.
But
Yeah,
that's
what it was called.
That was his gimmick, though, because comedians didn't know, or you know what? I don't know. I wasn't in comedy at that point. It was like 1998, but
Nobody had seen his stand-up in years anyway, because he hadn't released anything.
yeah. So that was his sort of gimmick, I would say, more than anything. Which is kind of a smart gimmick, because I remember it opens up with them having a funeral for all his old bits, and he has all like the not older comedians, but all the stand-up comedians were in the thing. Gary Shandling and Jay Leno
Right.
and Paul Reiser and stuff.
yeah, and they're all in the car like, you're really getting rid of all your jokes?
And then I
Like,
forget who
I think
needed something.
Shandling tried.
Gary Shandling.
I think he
It's
tried
like-
to buy one or something.
He just grabbed one. He goes, "You're not going to use. I got to do the Tonight Show. Come on, you got to. All right, fine, get out of here." And but that was his gimmick. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when it became. Seinfeld did it, and he was the first one to really like publicly announce that he was doing it. And then I don't think it's up until Louis C.K. maybe, or Chris Rock. It was Chris Rock one of the guys, because no, even Chris Rock would put one out every 4 or 5 years.
yeah.
So I think Louis C.K. and I remember Jim Norton was another
As far
one
as
at
big
the same
names,
time. Yeah.
I think, but Louis was the one that you're saying like that was doing specials every year. Or that was getting
just
rid of the
basically
material?
came out and announced that he was like, all right, new special, old material is gone, type of stuff. Which I don't remember anyone else. I'm trying to think who
Yeah.
else would have done that.
Even if people had, Louis C.K. was the one that, like, because I'm pretty sure it was like a 60 Minutes interview where I saw him. He's like, he tells the guy, he's like, yeah, the guy's like, oh, so you're just doing all new material? And he's like, yeah, as soon as I do a special, I throw it all away. I start from scratch.
I'm trying to think of who
And that's a huge
who
platform.
had a faster pace. Maybe Dennis Miller had a pretty good pace. 88.
I don't
90,
even think I
92.
saw
Nobody's-
Dennis Miller's special.
Nobody was
I don't
doing
think it was.
specials every year.
Yeah, even Miller's one. I think he did 2, and then he took 94. And yeah, he didn't. Maybe Carlin.
Nobody was.
Yeah.
I don't even think Carlin was doing it.
When did you guys like fall? Like, I remember like in high school, I really got into stand-up comedy, and this is like maybe towards the end. And then I remember Bring the Pain, Chris Rock's Bring the Pain.
Yeah.
And that was like a big deal because and this is like years later when I got into comedy. A lot of like comics, like the BET Comic View comics and stuff, were upset because it was like, oh, you don't have to be like white people this, black people this. You can actually get a black audience to like pay attention to like jokes going on.
Yeah.
With like it was the first time where it wasn't like, oh, you just don't make fun of white people. Like white guys talk like this. And
you
black
know,
guys.
the thing with BET Comic View, and you know, I know a lot of quote unquote urban comedians, for lack of a better term, will say the same thing. There's different, even in the black community, there's different styles of comedy, and there is the Chitlin circuit. Like,
well, they used to do a thing on BET Comic View. If you remember, they would do a thing where they would do like the same people doing the same jokes. Like they did the same 4 different people doing
Oh,
the
yeah.
same jokes. Like they did. They
Oh,
had that.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
on the-
dude. It was horrible.
I know that they would
Well,
break
I
it down
started out
by
doing-
subject. Like Comic View would do this.
No, they would show.
No, they would show 'em doing the
literally
same joke.
I mean, the host wouldn't say, "Here's 4 hacks in a row doing the same
No,
joke."
but they would just cut
But when
the
you're,
clips,
But
yeah.
when you're showing that,
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. You're making fun of these because
Well, you're burying them. You're
No, they
burying
would
them.
do
yeah,
like-
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
talking the same topic.
You mean the
We're
exact
talking,
same
like,
joke?
It was basically like that joke. Like
Some of them were word for word.
Why-
the bill
why-
collector calls. You call me again, I'm going to take you out of the hat. That's where I put all the bills in the hat, and I only pick one. That's one I'm going to
Shit,
pay.
They want to find Osama bin Laden. They need to call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
collector at
literally
J.C. Penney's.
They would show 4 different comics doing that same joke
Oh, yeah.
of
I was
I'm
waiting for
going
the
to
host
take.
be like, here's
Yeah.
4 pieces of shit doing the same joke.
No, that's weird that
And
they
it
would
was-
bury people that way.
Yeah.
What would be the purpose of that on your show?
And also, like in the mid, this is like 2008.
Yeah.
This
I don't think it was looked at it that way on that show.
yeah,
to
no,
be honest with
you're
you.
right.
Yeah,
but
it
also
wasn't looked at
that
that at
show
all.
to me was not the best. like you wouldn't see the best black comedians on Comic View. Like Bernie Mac, I don't remember seeing very often on Comic View.
You'd see some.
There were some famous guys that, but I know what you're saying. But also, you
the
take
bar wasn't high.
Well, I mean,
Def Jam was a higher
you
bar.
Ever watch Evening at the Improv?
Oh, that was terrible. But when I was a kid,
there's a lot of famous
hokiness,
people, but there's also
a lot of shit you got to sift to get to those diamonds.
That were shit too.
Yeah.
Well, also, you know what? Yeah, you're right because you'll watch
any
clips.
show that has a lot of comics.
You
that's
watch
been on for a while.
clips of anybody that you know from Evening at the Improv. It's like their rookie season. So it's like watching them play maybe like AAA ball. So you get excited. You're like, oh, Margaret Cho, and you're like, oh, she's not
a
very
bunch
strong
of those,
yet
if
because
not
she
all
hasn't
of
figured it out
on Amazon Prime. Because I was watching like David Spade and Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
and you can see who they obviously have grown into, but like they're not
there yet.
Funny.
They're just very young. That
was definitely a show that like if you were in LA at that time and you were a comic,
you could get on it. Well, because they did it on a weekly they did so many of those. Dude,
you don't understand how many comics, like, because I just basically did the road. I started like in the early 2000s, so from like 2005 to like 2012, I was just featuring on the road full time.
Yeah.
So that's why I worked with a lot, because I would do comedy zones, which are all over the Southeast. So I'd work with BT Comics, Comic View Comics all the time, and then also a lot of those dudes that did like the Mark Price that was Skippy from
Skippy Mark
like
Price,
he wasn't he like the regular on Evening at the Improv? Like he was.
He might have hosted. I'm sure he probably hosted an episode.
He was
a
big deal.
Yeah, in so many of those comics, like I would work with because they were like,
except at any comedy club in the country,
right?
And you would YouTube their videos, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is, and they're doing the same joke they did in 1987. Like Bob and I joked about before, Bill Kirchenbauer from Just a 10 of Us.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, like in the mid 2000s, I'm working with him, and he's running across the stage, slapping his forehead, going, "Look at me, I'm the type." Yes,
right.
He's still doing the typewriter. You knew
it's
it.
A hell of a bit, bro. But I mean, you can't keep doing it. But those were the classic.
Typewriters were gone, and he's doing the typewriter
he's
thing.
Still doing it. The typewriter, the steak. Why do the mechanics charge you
back then?
Why are mechanics able to change the price? Nobody else gets to do that. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
back then that was a bit. There wasn't a lot of. You had. I mean, I realized even at the Improv was on. It was on cable, right?
It's on A&E.
Yeah, and back then you've got for doing comedy Comedy Central wasn't around, or it was the Comedy Channel. There wasn't a lot of stuff on there. You had ABC, NBC, CBS.
There wasn't much stand-up.
The late night shows,
right?
I mean, there wasn't a lot of stuff. So I mean, Evening at the Improv was
you grabbed what you could get. You could get it was. I always looked at it as the equivalent of wanting something sweet, and if you found a scone. You know what I mean? Right. That's what TV was back then. For me, comedy-wise anyway. Like, whatever it was, I would be like, anything remotely that had stand-up in it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Or anything that was comedy, I would get very excited about.
I wonder what guys got paid for I was going to say Comic View. I'll get to that in a second. For like Evening at the Improv. Because I know when guys did Comic View, like, we're talking even like 10 years ago, it was like, hey, you want to do Comic View? Okay, well, you get yourself to Atlanta, put yourself up, and you'll get like $300.
Yeah.
Well, it was the biggest. Like I knew, and I was just like, guys would be like, yeah, they want me to do this, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, you'll get on TV. But,
if I was them, I'd do it. Yeah, I do it right now.
I know, but
just to do it.
That's such bullshit to pay that little.
It is, but that's the way the business works.
Dude, there was
No, it doesn't really work that way for TV shows.
Does it?
You should get more
it's
than that.
It's supposed to, but no, I agree. It should work that way.
If you do that, I mean, it's on TV. That's got to be like. I mean, if you do that this week at the Cellar, you get $1,234, and it ends up being like $850 after taxes and stuff. That's like what you get for doing a late night show or something.
That's not bad, especially considered it's supposed to be topical. That's at least good. It's when you have to. When you have to do your half-hour set.
Minimum.
Yeah.
So Bob knows this guy, but this is like maybe 2008-ish. Tom Sobel, who's a booker out of Kentucky. I don't think he really does stuff anymore, but he booked. So it's me and Roy Wood Jr. Doing a bunch of colleges and some clubs together, and Roy.
Roy Wood, he's okay.
Yeah, he's fucking awesome. I love the dude. I still joke to him about this, but he started like in Birmingham, Alabama, so the Stardome, and he would do the urban radio show. He would do like prank phone calls on there and stuff.
Yeah.
So, he was big on the radio.
Oh, he was huge. Yeah. So he sold out to Stardom.
He was the white Jim Florentine.
Yeah, he would sell out to
I said
Stardom.
that backwards.
Yeah.
meant
I
he
know
was
what
the-
you meant, though. The Florentine would do
He
those
was the
prank
black Jim
phone calls.
Florentine.
Florentine has so many part-time gigs that people kind of know him from. Like, you know what I mean? He has so many like very cult following gigs.
I love it
but
that
he
he's
never
friends
had,
with
like,
Eminem.
Crank
What?
Yankers.
He's friends with
regular
Eminem because
phone
of
calls.
Crank
Because of
Yankers.
Crank Yankers. Yeah, but it's like
Sorry.
Crank Yankers, that metal show, the terrorizing the telemarketer. These are all like small things.
He's a
that-
good- he's a good
like
guy.
a cult
Yeah.
following. No, he's a great guy. I'm not shitting on him by any means, but I'm saying it's just
Yeah.
funny. He's one of those guys like, I got 17 things I'm known for.
The sketch where he does the upper decker, you know what that is?
Oh yeah.
Where they
yeah.
go into hotel rooms and they take a shit on the top of and then they go to the manager and they're like,
in the bowl.
I can't believe that this is, every time
yeah.
you flush it. And then they put him in another room and he does the same thing. Takes it. How do you get to take 2 shits that quickly? Do you get what I'm saying?
Florentine is a special man.
Sorry, Ray. Didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh, it's all. Oh, so this with Wood at Birmingham, the Stardome, which is kind of like a theater. It's not. It's kind of like it's a comedy club, but it's more like a theater, and it's packed. And
it's the biggest comedy club stage.
yeah, you have 2 giant screens on stage with
it's
you.
ridiculous how big the stage is.
And because and so 2 BT Comic View comics that were from the era that were buddies of Roy would open up the show, and then I'd do like 15, 20 minutes, and then Roy would come out.
Headline, yeah.
And I knew how I was going to do based on the Comic View comic that was right before me.
How well they did versus
Yeah.
how well. If they killed too hard, you're like, I'm fucked.
Well, he would do a joke. The guy before me, he had braids, and
Yeah.
he would do a joke that he was on the roller coaster, and his braid got stuck in the roller coaster, and he fell out of the roller coaster, and his body just bang against the roller coaster as the roller coaster continues
yeah.
going loop to loop and all this.
Yeah.
And
Braids were so strong.
yeah,
braids,
that's and then when that got a huge laugh,
Never
Seems a little far.
Never
fetched,
happened.
guys.
Yeah. When people were like, just like, oh, all right, haha, that obviously never really happened. When they were like that, I did fine. When they start stomping their feet and clapping,
When they
and,
love that too much.
yeah,
you're
and I'm like,
"You're gonna
I'm
hate
dead.
me."
I'm like, I'm dead. I'm dead in the water.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Where you're like, I remember.
Before I went up, I knew I was dead. I'm
I
like,
remember doing a road gig, some Jersey bar. I stopped doing those a while ago. I got to do more of them though, for whatever reason. But there was a kid. They had a younger kid who was there. This was like must have been his 2nd or 3rd time doing comedy, but he brought people. And so he goes, I'm gonna do my impression of me on every Friday night. And then he took a bottle of water with the straw and made the like bubbles in the water, so it sounds like a bong. And then the crowd's like, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, this is going to be a long 25 minutes. And it was. Because if they like that, you're going to hate me. I get
Yeah.
it. Sometimes it's like, this
but
is not
dude,
the
I just been
style.
looking out there, and it seats like it's like 450 people, and you're like, there's 450 people that are just gonna hate me.
But there's a weird beauty of like the sell and when it's good. And like Bernie Mac to me, I love Bernie Mac. And he was a guy who would
I'm
sell.
not scared of you, motherfuckers.
Yeah. He would
I'm not
sell his
scared.
bit. So it's weird because it's the same skill of selling your bit, which is
Right.
important. But then when somebody sells nothing and they manage to kill with that, it's a problem, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you have substance and you can sell it, it's amazing. But when someone is selling nothing and getting laughs, it's a great skill and you almost admire it. But then part of you is just very angry. You're like, you're not saying anything.
yeah.
And then you're like, oh boy.
Well, how about you, Bob? Do you ever know of a situation where you knew what you were walking into before you walked on stage? We're like, oh, you just had one.
I think you. I mean, it's never 100%. As much as we might like to think, it's 100% of if you. Oh man, I know I'm gonna do shitty at this, and then you do shitty because this thing happens. I mean, you truly never know until you get on stage.
Oh, I knew.
you like
when
to
they were going.
Well, I know, but
knew.
There's been time.
I
There's
fucking
situations.
knew.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, you think
Every
that-
once in a while, you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But
I
mean,
wasn't. I was.
you were.
I was 0 for 3 on the 3 where they were going crazy on the braid bit.
No, this is a different story, Ray, but like I did a cruise a couple weeks ago that was out of Miami, and it was a last second gig for me. The cruise had already left, and they were like, "Hey, we'll fly you down to Nassau. You get on the ship. It's the last night. It's a 3-day cruise, which a 3-day cruise is a booze cruise. Or
Right,
as
right.
Another comic I know said it's a Section 8 cruise. these three.
What section 8?
Section 8 is
what
like
section?
public housing. Like
Yeah.
you
Oh, okay.
qualify.
These 3 day,
for
any
government
3 day
housing
cruise
in-
is just
in
people
Europe.
just getting hammered because it's 3
Okay.
days. It's it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's barely a vacation time. I used
Yeah.
one of my vacation days. I'm going to call sick on Monday.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
okay.
just, people just get hammered.
Yeah.
So usually
We don't got a lot of time.
So usually the comedy shows are pretty rowdy, which I
Right.
don't care if they're rowdy because I mean, at least at the adult shows, because then you're like, "Fuck you, shut up." You can
Right,
actually
right.
yell at people
Yeah.
like you want to. And so I get on the ship the last day, and I have to do 4 shows. I do 2, and my boss is like, "Now this is a 3-day cruise, so it's probably gonna be pretty rowdy." Well, I was expecting rowdy, and it was literally all 4 shows was just 300 people just fucking sitting there.
Were they just
Was
tired?
that good or bad?
I think. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think because they had been partying the previous 2 days, that
They're just
last day
worn
they were
out?
just like, and there was this one black guy that was sitting up front, and I could tell he was fucking with me.
Yeah.
Like, and it was at the PG shows, and I was just like, because like I wasn't doing well.
How was he
because the crowd
fucking
was
with
just
you?
sitting
Yeah.
there. He was laughing extra hard at jokes that weren't getting laughs, and then people started laughing at him when he was like,
Oh, I see.
laughing with him
So
when
he's
he was
almost
doing
laughing
that.
at you, kind of bombing in a weird
Oh
way.
yeah, no,
yeah,
no,
right,
no,
right.
Oh, I've had that.
Not,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah, we've
not
all been
like
there.
that
He
was
was.
exactly
That's what he was
doing.
doing. Oh, okay.
And I was like, I was like, I see what you're doing, man. I go, come back to the adult show and we can finish it. 'Cause
oh,
it was
that's so
a PG
funny.
show,
Like-
and it was like. Yeah, and it was just people. I was waiting for the crowd to be rowdy so that
And
I
then
could.
but
they
they
were
weren't.
literally just sitting there. And then the next cruise, which was a 4-day cruise, was much better.
Yeah, they had just tired themselves out.
It was
well. That's
insane.
the
It was-
that's
it
the
was
weird thing
ridiculous.
about. Okay, so that's the equivalent of like the third show Saturday, right? The third show Saturday is either depending on the club, but as the night gets on, the crowd gets a little wilder.
Sure.
So if you start a show at midnight, it
Right.
generally means these are people who have been drinking all day
Oh,
or
yeah,
since
yeah, yeah.
7, and like let's cap it off with a midnight show. And so they're
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Nobody's
or
at home at 11 o'clock at night going, let's go to the
let's go to
comedy
the
show.
midnight
Yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. They already
either-
had a night.
And then they've had a night, and then they're trying to cap it off with this. So they've been a night of drinking or what they thought was a good idea at 7 p.m. Now that they're drunk and want to chat and or they get so tired, you see people falling asleep
Yeah.
in the thing because they're just drunk and like
Sure.
not moving around. And so yeah, that's the weird part. It's either fucking wild west, people throwing chairs or whatever, or people just kind of like sitting and just watching because they're just tired.
Yeah.
One of those shows I was just talking about.
Yeah.
There was a guy in the front row that fell asleep
Oh
at
Jesus!
a PG show, and I was talking to him, and I couldn't tell that he was asleep. Like
Yeah.
I was. Well, I mean, I'm talking to him. He's not saying anything, but it took me like a minute to real. And I was like, wait. I go,
Is he
that guy's.
sleeping?
I'm like, that guy's asleep, and then he just like shakes and wakes up, and I was able to make fun of him. That was a good part of the show.
Right.
But it
well,
was-
when
and
something
guy-
like
and
that
guy
happens,
that guy
you
was
can-
cool about it.
You can deal with it.
Yeah.
You'd almost rather. To me, I'd rather the audience be like very
Awake?
antsy and fighting and rowdy than I would an audience just sitting there quietly. That
Oh,
drives me
yeah.
nuts because there's almost no way to pull it out of them. Because then if you start yelling at them or even criticizing them, then they're just silently taking a beating, and it just becomes more awkward.
Yeah. Oh,
Now
I've
you're-
done that too. Where it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
all right, what the
before a
hell
show,
am I
like
doing?
at a club, if you're like in the hallway or like in the green room and you listen, you stick your head out to hear the audience.
Yeah.
If it's a madhouse, you're like, okay, this might be a little rowdy.
Right.
If it's complete silence, you're like, oh shit.
Right.
You want like you want people
some
to be
murmuring,
talking,
some chattering. Yeah,
and then you're
yeah.
like, okay, this is a good crowd.
When you get there and everyone's completely
it's 8
silent,
o'clock and everybody's
Right,
like,
right.
yeah, well, let's do this.
you're
eh."
like, oh shit. Well, I've had the thing where I've had to start the show back in the day, especially the bar gigs, where I'd have to start the show by removing the microphone from somebody's hand who had wandered onto the stage. You're like, great.
That already is like.
It's already a problem. Yeah.
Ugh. All right, this podcast got to reveal a guilty pleasure.
All right.
Harry T, what do you got, buddy? What's your guilty
I mean, there's
pleasure?
a lot of debaucherous things I've done in my life, but maybe the most guilty pleasure at this point, since I'm not ashamed of any of those things. I'm going to venture to say this isn't a peculiar one. I like gossip, right?
All right.
I love gossip.
I was waiting you to say Gossip Girls, the show.
No, I've never watched.
I never see the show.
I've never seen it.
Wasn't that big for like 3
Gossip.
years?
It's Gossip Girl.
Is
Gossip
it Gossip Girl? Yeah, he's right. It's Gossip Girl.
Come on, Ray.
Yeah, come on, Ray.
Gosh.
It's Gilmore.
Did you watch
watched
it?
Gilmore Girl.
Yeah. Gilmore Girl.
No, I'm trying to think of the most. All right, so
tell me
just
a
to get
gossip
back on
story
track,
you-
but I'm trying to think of the most like
Tell us some gossip,
woman
babe.
show.
Yeah, tell us some gossip.
The woman show that I watched that I should be ashamed of.
Turns
like,
out we like it too, gossip.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I don't necessarily like spreading gossip, right? But I will say it's more like I like overhearing people's stories. I like what's going on if there's some type of drama
Right.
going on. So case in point, like
It's not really gossip if it's all good shit.
No, it's not all good shit.
I
but
know,
it's,
there's gotta be drama. There's
but
gotta be
but what I'm
something.
saying is none of my business stuff. That
Right.
Literally like total strangers.
Right.
Like when that's going on, I kind of am interested in eavesdropping and learning and figuring out the backstory. So case in point, here's one that I did. I used to shoot a lot of weddings, video production stuff. Right.
Okay.
So when you're doing that, I'm not invited to the wedding. I'm there
Right.
working, but everyone else's family and friends. And I remember seeing this. There's two couples, right? And they're sort of in their like late 20s, early 30s, young couple. And the woman, one of the women,
They're guests. It's not their wedding.
it's not their wedding.
Okay.
They're just guests there. You can tell. You can break down the backstory. They're not bridesmaids or anything, but they're dressed up. It's a wedding, and
You
they're.
caught them on video saying something?
I didn't catch them on video.
Oh, that's
They're
right.
my
You have the
break.
video camera.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, hold on. You got
Dude.
something because we usually mic the grooms during the ceremony,
fuck.
and that's when it becomes a problem.
Here comes
'cause
the bride. Oh, God damn
it's
it.
never so much that it's usually the best man or the other guy going, oh, she's fucking looking good. The other like looking at one of the bride, she's really looking fucking good tonight, and then you're like, well, I guess we'll cut this out in post, but it's not my problem. I'm not editing this one.
I used
But you'll
I used
overhear
hit
that one.
Fuck. Shit. I mean, what?
Yeah. And you'll overhear a little bit of that goes on. I've seen couples fight, which is fun to watch, like what the fights are about and stuff. But this couple, the girl was really mad about something, right? And she's just like, and the three of them are all surrounding her, and they seem to kind of be consoling her, and she is just going, no, this is fucking bullshit. Somebody has to say something. This is bullshit.
Oh yeah, I like it already.
Right?
I like it already.
And I'm like just with my like,
You're like, yeah, someone's got to say something. Let's get
just
in.
shaking my rum and coke or whatever, and and the thing is, I'm not a part of this, but I keep kind of inching in, like I have to try to lean
right.
against the bar or whatever to overhear this, right? And then so the other, and then her boyfriend, I guess, leans in, and I like figuring out the piece by piece of the story of who's who and what, and he goes, you are not going to fucking do this again, okay? We are not doing this here again. It's not happening here. Again is the key. That's the key point. You hear little things you're like, again, this happens often. All right. And then the other girl, who's her friend or either their couples or whatever, she goes, I hate to say it, but he's right. It's not our business. We can't say anything. It's not our business to say anything. Right?
And all you want to know at this point is what
is it? But
Yeah,
I'm trying to piece it together, and as far as I can just assume, I'm assuming, and this is part of the fun, figuring out the picture in my head, I'm assuming somebody is fucking around on somebody that they saw at the wedding. Like one of her friends is like the boy. I'm going to assume that one of her girlfriends, her boyfriend, they saw either fucking around with somebody else or kissing somebody or whatever. Because what else would it be? It's not like, no, his interest rates are way too... Somebody should say something. It's not that. It has to be something salacious. Yeah, like somebody... No, you're not refinancing their mortgage again. Like, and unfortunately, the thing that sucks is sometimes they walk away and you can only follow so long. So I never found out what it was about because they ended up... Who was cheating on who or whatever. But I just like, it's a weird thing because I don't like causing trouble or drama in other people's lives, but I love hearing about like shit that went down. Like if somebody's like, oh yeah, so-and-so got into a fight. I'm like all ears. I'm like, what happened? Mm-hmm. I want to hear every detail, who started it, all that shit, which is kind of, it's a very it's a gossip girl thing to do. Like I want to know.
Right. What's the weirdest you actually was able to confirm?
The weirdest thing I was able to confirm.
Yeah,
shit,
like gossip that you heard.
I can't. All right, see, here's the problem. This gossip hasn't come out yet, so I can't mention somebody by name. But
No, I don't want names.
Yeah,
give
yeah.
us fake names.
well, there's always the thing of there are always comedians that you're like, I'm kind of surprised their name hasn't come up in the Me Too thing because I'm kind of.
I know this guy, Gay Hamito.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you're like, I don't know why their name hasn't kind of come up because we were all, and it's not like I'm the only one privy to this. I'm like, I feel like there was 30 of us in the room when that such and such thing happened, or when that dude kind of grabbed that girl's ass or whatever, and I'm surprised that hasn't come out. That type of thing. I'm trying to think of the most. God, what is the? You said your question was, what is the weirdest thing I was able to confirm?
I was mainly talking about the weddings.
Oh, the weddings.
The weddings.
Well, the weddings and stuff. Sometimes, like we would see every once in a while. Like we would do all tiers of weddings, right? And so it's like my dad would take any job available, and you could go to basically most wedding companies, and you could get something for whatever you want to pay for it. But it's just you and so my dad would do any job. So it would be like we would do jobs in the South Bronx.
Right.
Like, hey, welcome to Terjanian Video Productions.
Yeah.
You want your wedding? We got you covered.
Yeah, I mean we would say no to nobody.
Right. Yeah, why not?
It's
we had
comics.
We do the same thing. I got a night open.
You want beta? What do you? We got all of them.
We'll do it on. Yeah, I mean anything you want, we got it. So there were fights. We'd see fights would happen, like actual.
Now, would you
fist fights.
videotape them?
They tended not to break out when the video thing was going down. So I don't think we ever caught one that was a bad fight. We've had to redo some best man speeches, like especially back when you would do those. I don't know why people love these so much because they were terrible, which is why we stopped doing them. But like you do hand the microphone around to people to say congratulations, and especially the bridal party. They're out in the hot sun taking photos, and if they're not in the photo, they're just drinking because there's nothing else to do but sit in the limo and drink. And some of the people would get pretty sloshed and just like, I just want to say you guys are so happy, that type of thing where you're like, this is movie comedy drunk. Nobody really gets that drunk, right? This is, if you did it in a take, I'd be like,
they sound more like a eulogy than a...
Right, yeah. But most weddings are for the most part boring. I remember one time a groom disappearing for about 2 hours during the reception, which was a problem. Like he just left, and we're like, "Where the fuck?"
After they were already married.
They were already married, so this is the wedding reception. So the church thing already happened, and then the groom just disappeared for 2 hours. And I don't remember. This was when I was really young. It's got to be a
drug habit, I'm assuming.
I don't know that it was a drug. It seemed, from the way everyone was dealing with it, it seemed more like a going off to fuck somebody else habit.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember why, because this was when I was much younger. I would go with my dad when I was like 12. He would just take me along. Which I thought was like, why would you bring your kid along to this? And in hindsight, I realized like, oh, he was lonely. He was working 7 days a week. He wanted to see his kids. So he's like, this is the only way I can do it. Help me lift this, because he doesn't really need a 12-year-old to help him.
Right.
It's free food. Have at it.
Yeah. So, we did spend some time. But I remember for some reason the energy was, and even like at 12, I didn't even know what fucking was, but I knew like something's up with this that he's not.
Where was this wedding at? I'm just curious.
I don't even remember where it was. Somewhere in New York. And it was one of the lower tier.
I don't know why I want to say that just sounds like Jersey. Just sounds like that's something that would happen in Jersey.
I mean, there's a lot of
I don't know why.
You had a couple drunken fights that take place, but you never get gossip from those because the fight never really reveals what it's about. It's just about one guy going, "What the fuck, bro?" and another guy going, "Well, fuck you then."
Didn't you ever see that MTV... I think it was that MTV show True Life or whatever, but it showed like some Guido guy and he was getting married and the limo was late and he's just like, I will fucking gut your family if you don't fucking get that. I mean, you're bleeping out the swear words.
Oh, for real?
A lot of that. Oh yeah, there's.
Oh yeah, and then a couple years later, they
turned out they were divorced.
Well, they find him and do another episode on these people years later, and guys like, I was really mad, but I've grown up since then. But he was just like your classic, New York Italian Guido.
Jersey Guido.
Yeah,
dude, that's they also say like that show Teen Mom, because of its popularity, like teenage pregnancies are way up. Like girls like it's almost like a glamorous
Of
thing.
Of course, yeah. They want to be. Well, they want to. I guarantee you, some girls got
get on
pregnant
that
to
show?
try to get on the show.
Such a low bar to. I guess again, you're not talking logic because in my head I go,
There's
just
still 17.
mathematically that doesn't make sense. But again, I'm way into the logic fields where we have left them
It's
long
like, yes,
ago.
you're halfway.
Yeah.
You're halfway there because you're gonna. And as far as the dumb factor of you want to get pregnant as a
For
teen
any
to
other
try
reason,
to try
right.
to be on a show,
Right.
But then it's like, but sorry, you don't have. And I'm not going to say any of these girls necessarily have an interesting personality, but you don't have like a big oafish boyfriend.
Right, right.
There's got to be something that gets you on the show besides you just being pregnant.
All right, here's a piece of gossip. I know somebody who works on, or who has worked on one of those like teen mom shows because they've done a lot, and they go,
And he impregnates the girls?
No. But
You want to get in the biz, right?
but he's like, yeah,
You're
we
gonna
had
need some
to,
jizz if you want to
There
get in
is
the
a
biz.
casting bed.
he goes, no,
Jizz
but,
for the biz.
but he did go, well, there is somebody we had to their role reduced on season 2 of whatever, or season 3 or whatever it was, because they're a drug user, and they beat the girl on the thing. Like he beats her
wow.
in real life, but being that it's MTV or whatever, it's just like, well, I will just cut him out. And that's the extent of their involvement. Like, we're just
not going
going
to tell anybody.
We're not going to
We have
tell
video of
anybody,
this, but that's going to be deleted soon.
we're going to just, I don't know if there was video, but it is like, we're aware this is going on, so we're just going to pull back.
Well, that's what they
slightly.
used to at the Jersey Shore. That one dude was on fucking steroids. He just going around punching
Ron.
people in the.
They were all on
They
roids.
all were.
Yeah,
they
but the
were
one
all
dude
on
would
roids.
go
Apparently,
around.
the
Ronnie?
situation's-
Ronnie would just
the
go around
situation
punching
still
people.
is. But he only injects them into his face.
But he's just going
Like
around
the
punching people in the
situation.
face.
We forgot what a phenomenon that was. That Jersey Shore thing was so big. I know
And none
they
of them
brought
were
it
from
back.
None of them were from Jersey.
No, they were actually Staten Island, I think, right, or New York people.
I think Snooki was from like Delaware or Rhode Island.
Oh, really?
None of them were actually from New
From
Jersey.
Jersey.
And she wasn't even Italian.
Yeah.
She's adopted though, at least I guess, into an Italian family. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, and that's just MTV having that show. Oh, it was a huge phenomenon. I mean, it still is. They still, they still have shows that come out, and
I watched
situations
it.
going
I watched
to jail.
it at the beginning. I watched it. I didn't watch every episode, but the first season or two.
you watched it because you're like,
It's a train
look
wreck.
at these idiots.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they
Yeah.
brought it back.
Any of those shows, they made the whole. There's always been a big. Once that came out, then there were all these other shows about like Guidos and Guidettes.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like I remember there was a show. I forget what channel it was on, but it was about these ladies that ran a hair salon in Jersey.
Yeah.
And I used to actually watch that because I was like, just like I watched Jersey Shore, because I was like, this is just so fucking. These people are so stupid.
Well,
and I do realize that, and a lot of people don't realize that it's like, yeah, well, when you're watching the show, and then when the credits roll and it says writers, like this is not.
Oh, sure, yeah.
There is no such thing.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as you know what a reality show is? A live sporting event.
Right.
That's a reality
Yeah.
show. Any of these so-called reality shows are all.
I do know that going into it. So the few that I do watch,
we know that. Some
You're
people
right.
are
Yeah,
so
you're
stupid
right. They
that
don't
they're
get
just
it.
like, and it is, sometimes you get caught up in it, but you're watching this shit and you're just like, well, I don't care. They're putting them in this situation. I remember when they did the Real World, and they did it in Austin, Austin, Texas, and I just moved here from Houston,
right.
and I was at the comedy club there, and they had said that the Real World MTV had come to the comedy Cap City and said, hey, we want to do bring the cast here to see a show, and they were like, no.
Oh, they said no.
Oh, they said no?
They were
Wow.
like, no, we don't want, because they knew they're not just bringing them there to have a comedy show. They want them to get drunk.
Right,
They wanted to be
right.
a
Act
fight
scene.
or whatever.
Yeah. So
And they also
so
don't
they
let
were
you
like,
know
no.
up front.
They
right.
also didn't need the publicity because it's a great comedy club. And
That's great
They
on
were just
them.
like, no, you're not going
Also-
to.
Also, they also have, when they show up, you forget, and even in entertainment, you kind of forget. You get lost in it every once in a while. But
Sure.
when, like, in order for them to do that, there's a cameraman and a boom mic, and then like probably a
It's
moving
a
lighting
big
guy,
production.
and then
Yeah.
an
So
assistant.
it's not going to be like a regular show. Now it's a taping. It's a taping of a television show, not a live performance that other people came to see.
Yeah, and every once in a while you're just like, why all this shit for that? It seems like a lot.
Well,
and
nobody knows who these people, like a show like The Real World or even The Jersey Shore, like the first season.
Right.
Nobody knew. None of them, they were quote unquote regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the one Guido
So the
punched
first-
Snooki in the face
So the
at
first
the bar, not thinking there'd be any
the first
repercussions.
episode, I realized, all the guys were ripped, and or at least two of them were. Three of them were. The one guy that was smart and like went to college, he wasn't. He wasn't like out of shape or anything, but he wasn't fucking roided up like the other
Is
three
that
guys.
Vinny? Is that Vinny or Paulie D? I watched.
No,
I'm not gonna lie.
Paulie D's ripped.
Paulie D is ripped. Yeah, I think Vinny's the one.
Vinny's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the guy that like went to college.
The most normal one.
Graduated college. Yeah, and he. But like
When his family was
you're-
actually Italian, unlike the others. Like
if the three of us show up at a bar with cameras following us, we're going to get some hot chicks talking to us that wouldn't have talked to us if we
Sure,
didn't
yeah.
have the cameras.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
These guys were already good looking, but
And
still,
then on top of that-
it's obviously not.
Dude, I got
shit's
that with
gonna
my
happen that
MTV
isn't gonna
videos,
happen.
and I just had a little camera, and chicks would come up and talk. Like, oh, what do you got a camera for? And stuff. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
People,
I would.
like-
Well, I am also very handsome.
This is true.
I have.
This
I
is
have
true.
that.
You're not gonna lie. You do not lie. That's no gossip. That's fact.
The Vinny's family at least was Italian. Like my grandparents are from Italy, and like so half my family was from Italy. They don't talk like
What is this, the Wapcast?
No, they don't talk all aggressive. They're more like whining and that. Like everything's like that's like. So when you see this stupid stereotype of these overly Italians, like they're aggressive, it's sort of like that's not what people from Italy really talk like. It's more.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah,
that's,
know?
that's New York.
That's
asshole.
New York. Yeah,
It's more like like.
But I do think that people are aware that that's a New York thing and not so much an Italy thing.
Yeah, because
At this point.
Because like when people find out that I'm Italian when I'm a kid, like, oh, they got to be tough
a lot
guys.
of-
I can't.
a
It's
lot
like,
of
no, that's
people
not
were
my
doing the-
grandma.
When Jersey Shore came out and became very popular, there were a lot of people that were acting like that and stuff. Just like when The Sopranos came out, you would see like on all the those shitty daytime shows like Maury and there would be episodes of people who like pretended like they were in the mob. Obviously,
Yeah.
so they could like be on a TV show, but they were like, "Yeah, no, this is how I am. This is how I talk."
Well, so
and-
also,
Now it's the bagel guy.
the bagel.
Oh,
yeah,
the
yeah.
bagel. He just go what? Dude,
I don't know that he's inspiring
a lot
anyone
of guys,
though.
yeah, I don't see a lot of people.
He's headlining comedy clubs. Who's gonna go see him?
People will.
That's insane.
That's the thing, though.
He's got
People-
one show lined up. It'll be horrible. But
He's fighting
a couple
Lenny
other places
Dykstra.
might book him, but it's not. It's he's going to be gone very soon.
He's fighting Lenny Dykstra in a
yeah.
real fight. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I kind
And
of want to
Lenny-
see that because I want to see that guy get punched in the face.
I don't think
by-
it's going to happen.
Well, it's always on and off.
And I followed him on Twitter. He's been arrested like 3 times
Yeah, that's
for
why.
3
That's
different
why I don't think it's going to
incidents.
happen. And he's been like taken to the psych ward.
Yeah. Lenny Dykstra's
Lenny
also
Dykstra or-
insane. Well,
Well,
Lenny
Lenny
Dykstra
Dykstra's
also
insane.
needs to be in the insane
Yeah,
ward.
Lenny
Lenny
Dykstra's
Dykstra is
insane
going
and-
to kill him.
And did a lot of roids
That guy
for many, many years.
He is gonna knock him down.
Did you see their pre-fight
Yeah.
conference?
He's gonna
where
knock-
Lenny Dykstra tries to attack him.
He still
at
looks
the
like
press
he's
conference?
on steroids.
Yeah,
Probably is.
Yeah.
I don't know why Lenny Dykstra would have developed a moral compass after he was done. After he was done
Yeah.
cheating in baseball, he's like,
He's a small guy and he towers over the bagel
the
boss.
bagel boss who's 5 foot.
dude, he's gonna.
That fight's. It's not even gonna last a minute.
No
I'll
offense
guarantee you
to,
it will not last a minute.
to the 3 of us. But if the 3 of us, it was all 3 of us versus Lenny Dykstra in a fight.
Be a tough time.
I think Dykstra would still win the fight. I think Dykstra could take
Be a real tough time. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Dykstra's a beast. Like he could probably kick
he's
some
gonna,
ass.
He's gonna kill. If I don't think it's gonna happen.
He's gonna beat the shit out of that guy. It's gonna be brutal.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see it. It's been a long time since we did those celebrity boxing things, but we all love watching people who are fucked up and their careers are fucked up. It's fascinating. Like that's part of what I mean with gossip too. I'm fascinated by like what the fuck happened. What's the backstory? What happened to you? Why did they get divorced? Why did they break up?
Yeah, dude, Dykstra's not even gonna get a scratch on him.
Yeah.
It's gonna be uncomfortably one-sided beating. It's gonna be
Dykstra's been in fights and knows how to throw a punch. Bagel Guy's been in fights and does not know how to throw a punch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a
Bagel
professional.
Boss has been
athlete.
in fights where he gets tackled in a bagel,
Bagel
shop.
Boss.
by an 80-year-old man who just some old guy that happened to be there and didn't want to listen to
Have
him
you seen
anymore.
him when he does his shadow boxing and stuff?
No, my
Bagel Boss?
God. Talking
It
about
looks like a
reality
special
TV.
like a special ed kid.
Hey, do you remember when Buzz Aldrin punched that reporter?
Yeah, yeah.
When that
Yeah.
reporter kept insisting that it was a, he's like, you faked the moon
yeah.
landing, you're a liar. And finally, like a 60, 70-year-old Buzz Aldrin just cocks back and knocks this dude out.
Yeah.
Just bam. Like still, it's one of those, that fist had a lot of like piss and vinegar in it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He's still,
yeah.
just, that's like an old man, but wily, still strong.
And he's a respected astronaut. It's not like he was just some scrub. It's not like he was like a dirtbag.
The second man on the moon, for
Yeah,
God's
not like
sake.
he's just a degenerate. Like
The guy
he
who
was-
the guy who got punched got exactly what he wanted
Yeah,
out of it.
yeah,
He got a lot of-
yeah.
he got a lot
Well,
of pub.
he didn't get any. I think the courts acquitted Buzz on it too. They were
No,
like,
I know,
was,
but people know who the guy is.
right. I guess, yeah.
Or
the moon
he
landing.
got people to see that video, and it probably got people to.
Yeah, he got what he wanted.
I love
his
gossip. Don't.
website
I'm not
or
a
whatever.
conspiracy theorist guy though, so it's different.
All right, we're gonna
Well, yeah,
get
that's
ready
not
to
gossip.
wrap up here. Harry, where can we find you, homie?
You could go to my website, ihatecomedy.com. That's where I'm at. If you like wrestling, my company, Capital Wrestling, does shows about once a month. And we do free episodes. They're available on YouTube and Fight Sports. And also the podcast I do, Man School 202 with Dante Nero.
Nice.
We do that. That's free. You can listen to that. Sex and relationship advice from the male perspective. And also my sketch group, The Unwanted. We do a show once a month at Under St. Mark's, the first Wednesday of every month, 7 p.m. Under
Nice.
St. Mark's Theater. It's a lot of fun. It's a great show. Come
Do you
and
guys
check
still
it
do
out.
Beige Phillips?
Well, it's Man School 202 now. We flipped it from Beige
Why'd
Phillip.
you change the name?
Branding, like Beige Phillip. Beige Phillip was an inside reference to something that Dante had done with Patrice, which was
Right,
Black
right.
Phillip. He was like
Yeah.
the Black Dr. Phil. But after a while, we were just kind of like, it doesn't really, you don't know what the show's about with that name. We got everything
right.
we could out of the name, and we want to expand and reach more people. And Man School kind of
Cool.
describes a little bit more of what it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And where Twitter, Instagram, all that
At
stuff?
Harry Terjanian. I should be the only one out there. Google it. You should be able to figure it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Good times, man.
No, thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Word up. Step up to the G hole.